people would categorize young people, and then they'll downplay it, and they be like, "Oh no, that's them young kids. They so bad. They so," but you won't help them. You won't pray for them. You'll just sit there and you'll judge them. So it's like you just as wrong as them, but they're younger.
Welcome back to Turn on the Lamp podcast. I'm your host, Devin Lamp. Today, I got a super special guest in store. He's all the way from St. Louis, Missouri. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Ryan Moore, I appreciate you, bro, just for setting up this time out of your schedule, making this happen, bro.
No, I appreciate the opportunity, man. It's a blessing to lift his name, and I love what you're doing with the podcast. I think this is just the beginning, bro.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. So let's first start off, man. You were just talking to me all set about how you got to work out in before church, right? So fitness is huge to you. Tell the audience a little bit about why it's important to steward over your temple that God has given you.
I think it's important because God has made me capable and us capable to move our bodies, man. And I think sometimes we take that for granted. Fitness is a lifestyle for me. And I know it's a lifestyle for others, but I just don't think you should take that for granted that God gave us this gift to move our body, man. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's essential to everybody, all ages, all walks of life.
So has that always been a passion of yours? I know you have a previous history with sports and stuff. Kind of talk about how you got into the fitness industry.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't just say always it's been a passion. I never really just sat there and was like, yeah, I want to be a trainer. I honestly became a trainer. I think God opened that door for me to serve others. He knew that I was very passionate about it, but I wasn't driven to lead others towards it. If you can understand what I'm saying with that, but I believe that just getting the opportunity to serve others in that walk of life has been inspirational for my life and to others. So,
absolutely. And that reminds me, bro, Jesus, he gave us the greatest commission to go out and make disciples. And a lot of people, they confuse like the ministry portion with that you have to be in a church. And that's not necessarily the case. And I think God, he plants those desires in us to specifically be in certain industries in which you're able to touch the lives of others and lead them towards Christ. So let's dive back all the way from the beginning, bro.
Okay.
You were born in St. Louis, Missouri, right? Kind of talk about your household dynamics and how you grew up and stuff.
Okay, so I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised, man. I grew up with both parents. Both my parents still married to this day. Coming up on almost 40 years, man. And they kept us in church at a young age. I had a brother and I had a sister. My brother passed away when I was 18 years old, headed to college. And then my sister today is still alive and she has a child, which is my nephew. Both my parents, like I said, they are who I look up to. They have instilled values in me that, like, now I'm really understanding the more I live. So I moved to Dallas, Texas, but like I said, I'm from St. Louis. They both still reside there. Other than me not being able to see them every day, the move was the best thing I ever could have done. But just missing them, day to day. But they know that I'm out here and I'm really trying to change not only my future, but my family's future going forward. If you know anything about St. Louis, Missouri, you know that, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough, man. It's one of those spots where we call it the show me state, so you always walking around trying to show who you are, how tough you are, how good you are in the sport. We compete at everything we do. So just being from St. Louis, like I said, you walk with a little different swag, man. Just a little different swag because everything could be worse, So
I kind of want you to dive a little bit deeper into like the grief part of that, losing a brother at a young age. How did you kind of juggle that dynamic and what allowed you to get through that grief?
Yeah. Like I said, I lost my brother at 18. I was rolling into college, man. I never forget it. And I tried to actually go back home. Instead of going to college, I was gonna go back home and go to a school that was close by. And my parents both made the agreement that I was gonna go to school. At that time, I didn't agree with it. I wasn't for it. I wanted to be with the people that I love during that time of grief.
Mm-hmm.
But they sent me back to Missouri Western College. It's about 5 hours away with no car. The next time I seen my parents from the funeral was actually Thanksgiving. And just going through that, you start to feel, going through that grief process, you start to find who you can lean on.
Mm-hmm.
You find, who do you want to put your faith in? What do you want to put your faith in?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a lot of different moments in my life and also in others when they're grieving, that shows you a light. It shows you like it's actually light at the end of the tunnel. Like you won't feel this way forever.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody always tell me, pain doesn't last forever, right? And I'm a true believer of that. What you're going through today, on another day, it might not feel that same pain, right? You might feel pain.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you're not human or nothing like that, but as you go on in time, you start to understand how important life is.
Mm-hmm.
You start to understand what's important and what's not important. And then you start to cherish the moments with your loved ones because you just never know when it's going to end.
Absolutely.
Me and my brother was together my entire life. Every day, we used to wear the same clothes all the time. We got so many pictures together. And I left for like 8 days to go to college, and I never seen him again. And people that's really, really close to me know how close me and my brother were. Like I said, the early grieving process was hard. As I get to today, I'm in a better space, and I love talking about my brother because my brother was an amazing person. At first, I didn't like to talk about it, but right now, like, I love to spring his name like he's still living. Because that's just my job to do. So it's been good.
For sure. So you mentioned you moved to Dallas. How was that initial transition? You're coming into a new city around a lot of people you don't really know, right? How did you kind of find your foot in the city?
Okay, so when I first got to Dallas, I was a teacher at Crowley High School.
Okay.
Special education. I was a football coach, and I also was a basketball coach. And I knew a couple guys from college, but I was staying more so on that Fort Worth side, where Crowley was. And then maybe about 8 or 9 months in, I actually lost my cousin, and I also lost my grandma. And when that happened, I really locked in to finding God. Before I got here, I had those moments where I kind of lost touch with him. You lose that relationship. You start to put your faith in yourself instead of in something bigger than you. So moving to Dallas, it was like, I'm moving to Dallas, but I don't know anyone, like you just said. So right when I got here, I just locked in, man. I actually found the church, Shoreline Church. Been going there right now for 3 years, and it's the best thing that has happened to me since I moved here.
Shout out Shoreline.
Yeah,
bro.
shout out Shoreline, man. Just being in an environment in a community of people, of believers. Not believers today and not tomorrow, but believers every day. And I think it's a strength in numbers. Being around those type of people. Also, I opened a gym after teaching. So I quit teaching after year 1, and I opened a gym, and it allowed me to create a community of people who uplift me, no matter what I'm going through. Right? Yeah, I'm the owner of it. Yeah, I'm the head trainer, but these same people that come in that are my clients lift me every day. And I think that was really a big part of me moving to Dallas, because like I didn't have to kind of go find a community. I kind of opened the doors and the community found me.
Wow.
And like I said, my clients, my previous clients to my clients now, like they all know, like, we gonna go hard, we gonna praise God, and like that's it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they always uplift me. I always uplift them every session. So I think that community of people I found in Dallas was special.
Sure. For sure. And I really like how you highlighted the importance of community. I saw there was I think it was on Instagram, a reel that you was praying before the workouts,
Yeah.
right? Really instilling that into them. So even to the non-believer that may come into your workouts, they're being planted those little bitty seeds, right?
Right.
That eventually could sprout one day. I kind of want to shift it to your in workouts, bro. You being a former athlete,
Yeah.
right? How do you kind of navigate if there's a person that may be working out for the first time in a while, right? Being obviously gracious to them versus,
Right.
you know, a person that may be, oh, I'm gonna hit it hard every day, right? So how do you kind of balance that in one big group and kind of lean more towards?
So I think, man, honestly, you know, us playing sports, you know, we had a lot of coaches from little league to high school to the collegiate level to, you know, the guys that got to go pro. And I always like to measure coaches, you know, and then they say, well, how can you measure a coach? And I think the way you measure a coach is how they adjust, you know, and how can they coach different people? Not, well, they can coach a 5-star, but they can't coach a 1-star, right?
Yeah,
So I use that same method, being able to adjust to the person I'm serving, right? Every person doesn't learn the same. They don't learn this the same speed either. You know, some get it faster than others, and that's just how it goes. But to, like you said, to gauge it, how do you gauge that? Like I said, I open the doors, and it's a non-judge zone, right? Like this same person who never worked out, they gonna feel just as comfortable as that person that's worked out, and that's what I am praising myself on doing. You know what I'm saying? No matter who you are, no matter if it's a Monday or a Wednesday, no matter if it's an 8 a.m. session or it's an 8 p.m. session, I want them to feel like they can give everything they got. It's a non-judge zone, and they can walk away knowing that they gave everything they got.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I said, creating that space for them, and that's just constant reassuring. They're like, no, you're doing the right thing. You know, like most people, like, they do fitness, they'll even work out and I'll video them and they won't repost it, right? And they're nervous to see others judge them. But the only person that would judge somebody that's working out is somebody that's not working out.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So and I have to reassure them that, like, you know, like the other people that's talking about you, they don't work out. Because if you know the gym, you know, right? Like you just know. Like if you put sweat in the gym, you keep going, like technique and forms, you'll never be perfect. And that's why I like the gym.
Yeah.
Because there's so much room to grow in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So like I said, just reassuring all my clients, like I said, like it don't matter if it's day 1 or day 21. You gotta give everything you got, and that's how you can do.
Yeah.
The other thing I also tell them, like I always tell my clients, they know, like I'll tell them, like Rome wasn't built in a day. Like you're a masterpiece.
Step by step.
Like I had to look it up, like how many people died building Rome. Oh my God. I didn't even understand like why they kept going.
Yeah.
Right. But that's how much a masterpiece, and that's how many people have to surrender. That's how many people had to suffer for that great of something. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, fitness, man, it's not a day thing. It's a lifestyle, you know, and I think, like I said, once you telling somebody about that journey, you just got to reassure that every stage of it might look different, you know.
For sure. I'm going to allude to that analogy you just used, talking about the sacrifice of every day, right? You handling the pressures. I know you had a 7-on-7 league as well. You're a trainer, physical trainer. You're dealing with the pressures of trying to pour into each and every person that you contact, right? Talk about how do you navigate that pressure to a person that may be just stepping into their calling, or they're kind of starting it from the ground up, like you were similar opening a gym. How do you handle the pressure of every day knowing that you got to punch the clock at times where you may not see anything coming in a fruition?
Right. Man, I think, you know, I don't think, I actually know we are the hands and feet of God, you know, and He'll have everything every time, right? So with that being said, I feel like, you know, that navigation is not always the perfect GPS, if that makes sense. You know, it's not going to be perfect every day. And I like that, but I also understand that my mission is bigger than me. You know what I'm saying? So we always would say like mission over position.
Mm.
Like it's not the position that I'm playing, it's the mission that I'm trying to get to, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, today I might just be the trainer. And tomorrow I might be the janitor, however it looks. But I know that the mission is to serve people.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
you know, even if I'm
That's
not, you know, fulfilling everyone that day,
Mhm.
I know that it's gonna be days that somebody else is gonna take my role. And I just
Mhm.
gotta play that role right now because that's what I'm doing for the mission. And I think that, you know, sports helped me get that in tune, that it's not really about me. I love football because it's the ultimate team game. It's no other game that has 11 people moving at the same time.
For sure. Yeah.
So it's like, how can you get 11 people on the same page?
Mhm.
It's like a job, you know, how do you get 11 people to work at the same time?
Yeah.
Somebody gonna be late, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just the reality of life. So
Mhm.
once you realize that, like, you just understand the mission is always bigger than your position. So it doesn't matter what you're playing, what season it is, however it is, as long as you know in the end that the mission is bigger than you, you're gonna be okay.
Sure. So there's a lot of people, you being a former football player, there's a lot of people when that playing side is over, they ask number one question, what's next, right?
Yep.
Talk about how you navigated through those specific chapters in your life of knowing that at some point you got to flip the page.
Right. I honestly think I'm still navigating.
Mm.
I think I right before I got here, I actually looked it up. What percentage of athletes, you know, deal with mental health issues? So it said 51% doing elite athletes while they're playing, 35% when they get done. Right.
Yeah.
I think we dedicate our life to a sport. Like naturally, the sport forces you to take more time doing this sport than doing other things. And then when you get done, you try to figure out what's next, because you know every summer we work out. So next summer when you're not playing, what are you gonna do? How does that look? And I think when you're navigating to that next chapter, you have to find something that doesn't only bring you money, right? Like you can't go do something and be like, well, it bring me a lot of money, I'm gonna keep doing it, because eventually the money's not gonna be enough, right? Then it's gonna be, well, if I go do something after sports that's not bringing me fulfillment, you know, eventually you're gonna quit. Like, but we start playing the sport because it fulfilled us. So after I got done, I was looking around and I'm like, I don't want to work a job, right?
Yeah.
I honestly believe that I shouldn't be in a place for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week for the rest of my life.
Right.
I feel like it's just more for me to give to the world. So the first way that I did, I navigated, I was like, all right, well, why don't I go help the people, you know, in the schools, right? Because it's still connected to the sport.
Yeah.
So I became a teacher. I was a teacher for 5 years in St. Louis and in Texas. So I got to Texas and I was teaching and I still was missing something. I would get there and I was like, I'm not feeling it. Like I'm not fulfilled. Like it's just something that's really missing. So I prayed on it, man. I prayed on it and I decided to say, all right, well, I'm gonna serve people, but I'm gonna do it my own way. I'm gonna open my own doors. I'm not gonna use somebody else's platform to do it. It also took me 5 years to figure that part out, right? I still was teaching for 5 years before I opened the gym. Once I opened the gym, I realized like, okay, now I can navigate this the way I want to, right? So like you just said, I train athletes, train adults from all ages. I do a flag football team to all my clients. So it's just a different thing, but now I'm able to navigate what I actually want to do, and I get to serve people, bro, every single day, like hour on hour on hour, and I don't take that for granted. I'm just happy that God has allowed me to open doors. I've had over 3 different gyms, right? So with that being said, it was like, all right, well, God, like, all right, well, will you do it in Louisville? I'm like, yeah. Will you do it in Addison? I'm like, yeah. Will you do it in Dallas? Like, yeah. So I had to make that decision and say, like, wherever it is, however it is, I'm willing to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the ultimate thing is you have to commit to your next process of things. Just like we committed to the sport and we was like, all right, well, I'm gonna play the sport all the way into the league, say I'm not going to the league.
Yeah.
But we committed to it. So that means every summer, that means eating the right foods, that means drinking water, all those commitments. So I think like you're saying, like after sports is over, you have to navigate and commit to something else. But it also has to be bigger than you, because if it's only about you, when you, like you said, when you wake up and you don't feel like doing it, you're not gonna do it.
And in a way, it's like God was preparing you all along. Even when you were playing ball, it's like that same discipline and obedience, like you said, is what carries you through now to serving people. So your 7-on-7 team, you know, it's a different breed trying to pour into kids nowadays, right? So talk about what, I guess, challenges that you face, just trying to put the right stuff in their head in a world where they're influenced by TikTok, Instagram, a lot of different channels. How do you get through to your kids?
I think it's love. You know, nowadays a kid, it's not even nowadays, it's most of the days, once somebody knows you love them, they're able to understand you. They're able to listen to you. When they don't know if you love them or not, they don't know like what you want from you, it's a hard sell, right? So, you know, even the kids now, like, they don't listen to the teachers, right? Like it's a hard thing to do to get through the kids of this generation, only because it's so many other things that's pulling them. Like you said, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's the clothes you wear, it's all of those things. So for our 7-on-7, our program, like I said, we show love first, right? Like that's just the number one thing. All my coaches know, like, we show love. We also are like transparent coaches, you know, so what we say actually is gonna hold value. So we are intentional with our words. Like, we're not gonna curse a kid out, because naturally, if you curse a kid out, you might not get the best response, right? He might not respond. Yeah, there's other kids that can be cursed out and they will respond very well, but the natural state is the majority won't. So it's like whatever we say is very much important. So we want to put light, want to put love into the kids, even if they make mistakes, even if they don't. We're not loving them because how good they are, right? Like that's just not, you know, they scored a touchdown, show them love. Like, no, we want to show them love at all times, even if that's in practice, even if that's in the game, even if that's when they mess up, or even if they succeed. However it is, but like I said, it's more so showing love. The kids right now, man, all we can do is pray for them. They are facing a world where we don't even know what's next, you know, and that's kind of scary. I look at COVID, bro. I look at all these things that these kids have went through. I didn't go through. I didn't have to face those things. I never was in high school or middle school where I had to be on a computer and learn. I didn't learn that to college, right? The social norm and just learning how to be friends, and the pressure of dressing or fitting in. I think those are at its highest peak, because social media is also at its highest peak. We didn't grow up with Instagram. Instagram didn't come till I was in a senior in high school. I couldn't imagine being on Instagram at 11 and 12. I just couldn't imagine, you know. So like I said, just showing a lot of love to these kids, bro, because in a world full of hate, that's what they're gonna need.
For sure. So when it comes to social media, one might say it's difficult to navigate how to put the right stuff on your timeline just because of the algorithm and stuff like that. So how do you yourself, like, what would your advice be to someone that's looking to kind of change around that algorithm and kind of pour the right stuff into them? Because social media is not going away. It's a way that a lot of student athletes brand themselves, and it's just vital, like you said, in society nowadays. How can you use it to pour the right stuff in them?
I think you just got to be intentional, bro. I think social media can be used like for your betterment, you know, if you use it right, like you just said, or it could be your downfall. Like you literally could post this one bad thing as a college athlete or a high school athlete and lose offers. Then you can turn around, you can post this highlight tape and you go the other way with it. And like you just said, like changing your algorithms. I talked to my girl about that. Like, you know, like maybe need to change the algorithm if you don't like what you're seeing on your page, right? I have always, not always, but probably in the last 2 or 3 years, like I've tried to keep a rule, like I don't follow somebody that doesn't follow me, right? Just living in my own reality. So I know that like, okay, like this is a real person. The things that they're experiencing are real. I actually know them. Are they following me? Because I used to follow celebrities and I used to follow all these things, and it made me feel like I was doing the wrong thing. But I also had to realize like that's their lane and not my lane, and they live wherever they live. It'll make you feel like you're doing the wrong thing if you're following the wrong thing stuff. I also, like I said, since then, I only follow most of the time people that I know. If I don't, it's a motivational speaker. It's Bible verses, it's quotes. It's something that's gonna motivate me. It's something that's gonna push me forward. It's something that's gonna give me up. It's not something that's going to challenge who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like I said, some people use social media differently. You know, they algorithm might turn them up. You know, it might put them in a different mode. To each his own, like I said. But like you just said, social media is not going anywhere, and I can only pray for the transition of it, because right now it's killing so many people every day. Like, and I think about it like, yeah, it's hard for a man, but it's 10 times harder for a woman on social media. You know, because back in the day, it's like, oh, well, everybody got to look like this model type. It got to be a stick. Now it's on social media. So they can wake up, open the phone, and then compare themselves to another person. When for me, I really don't do that, but I also follow people that I know. So when I do wake up, I'm not seeing 3 chains and 5 chains. I'm not seeing a G-Wagon. That's not what I want, because that's not what I'm seeing. You know, I'm seeing everyday life. I'm seeing people with their families. I'm seeing people have kids. I'm seeing babies, all of those things, but I'm not seeing something that's maybe not attainable. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's really it's who you're around, what you watch, and what you put your faith into. The things that's gonna change you. Sure. My coach used to always say, bro, like in 5 years, you're gonna be the same person other than the books you read and the people you meet. It's like nothing's gonna change. Say in 5 years, and the crazy thing is the coach, I'm not a fan of that coach, but that really stuck with me, right? And I look back on it, I'm sitting there like 5 years from now, I'm like, the only thing has changed is the books that I've read and the people that I've met, right? Like, like I got closer to God throughout those 5 years, but essentially everything around me is the same. Like, it's just my community. As long as I change the people that's around me, it'll change what I got going on. So.
For sure. And like you said, man, just having discernment of who you surround yourself with. You mentioned earlier in the show that, you know, your values of what you want in your future family, right? And we all know that God created community, God created family. He loves family, right? So talk about what specific things that you're doing now before you have kids, right? To kind of set the future for your future kids and then your grandkids as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, the 7-on-7, bro, giving back, and really, like I said, trying to lock in to the people that's behind me, right? Like, our job is to make everything we found better than we found it. That's essentially what we're here to do. So like you said, like really pouring love into other people, but also into the people that's behind me, the younger generation, because that's who is gonna see my kids, and that's who's gonna be the range of my kids. I used to, I don't know if you know Inky Johnson, real good. Yeah, bro. Like, I mean, like second to none. And I was watching one of his podcasts one day, and he was saying like when he grew up, like his last name meant something, right? And they were saying like, you know, Ink would do all these things, and they'd be like, "Are you Ink kid? You part of that family? You good?" Like, you know, that name carried weight because of the people before him. The people that before him did whatever they did, and it carried weight for his kids. Like even their safety. Like, no, don't bother them. That's them people. They're the Moors. Like the Moors, good people, don't, you know. And I honestly, that's how I want it to be, right? So I know that everything I give, and I'm not looking for that in return as such, but I know, like I said, just putting light and love into other people, and especially the people that's behind me, because they are gonna be the principals of my kids. They gonna be the teachers of my kids, and I just want to know, make sure that I didn't put them people down, because I feel like nowadays, people will categorize young people, and then they'll downplay it, and they be like, "Oh no, that's them young kids. They so bad. But you won't help them. You won't pray for them. You'll just sit there and you'll judge them. So it's like you just as wrong as them, but they're younger. So it's like I said, like really giving back to the people behind me, knowing that the future generations are under attack of the devil. Honestly, like that's who's attacking them on a daily basis. So it's our job as the people that's in front of them to show them love, to show them light, and not to say, "Oh, I'm gonna judge you because who you are as a kid." Because again, we know as a kid, we're not the same person we are as an adult. They got room to grow. They got room to become somebody better. And it's our job, like I said, to keep reassuring them, like, this is not it, And like I said, where I'm from, St. Louis, Missouri, bro, some people don't cross the bridge. And that's just how it go, So it's always been that for me, is to give more than I receive and to help, like I said, that younger generation. I would rather teach, I would rather do something with kids before I work a corporate job, because I know that my work is going to show in the light of the world more so than like me cashing a check on that corporate job. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's no knock to anybody that's working a corporate job or anything like that. I'm just telling you my intentions, so.
Oh, for sure. And I have the privilege, man, to have guests from all walks of life come on this show. And I always ask them, what was the moment in your faith where you hit a rock bottom and you seen Jesus like no other? I call it the turn on the lamp moment. So you talked about how you moved to Dallas, right? Didn't really know anything. You lost your brother, right? What can you, from what you can recall, was that moment where you really dove deeper into your faith?
Losing my brother was big. I think at that stage, though, I didn't put God first at that stage. God was not the first person. Like, I didn't understand it. Not gonna get into the story, but my cousin killed my brother. Something that you see on TV and you're like, that's crazy, right? And then once you endure it and you live it, you're like, nah, this is real. Like, this could happen. This really happened to me. And my cousin and me was actually close too. And my brother and my cousin was closer, or all those things. So when it first happened, I really was shook. I was really like, this should never happen. Like, if anybody would have killed my brother, it wouldn't have been him in my mind, right? So whatever. So like I said, at that moment, you start to question God, and go through those things. And God, like I said, He wasn't first in my life. He was in my life, but He wasn't first. Like I said, my parents kept us in church and all. But I went to college, right? I went to college, and then I transferred schools, went to another school. Fast forward, I graduate. I go back to St. Louis, Missouri, and then I moved to Texas. And when I moved to Texas, like I said, my cousin that I was living with in St. Louis died, and my grandma at the time died. And I had talked to my grandma maybe about a week before, and she was telling me, like, boy, you need to get over here and see me. Like, but she knew I lived in Texas, which is 10 hours away. So I didn't think nothing of it, bro. And the next week, my grandma died. My grandma was my best friend. My grandma was my first tattoo. My grandma bought my first cell phone, bought my first Mac computer. Like, she was the joy of my life. And when that happened, I realized, like, I couldn't judge time. So I'm like, what do I want to put my faith in? And that was the moment where I was like, nah, like, I got to get in church. I got to find a church, and I got to go no matter what. I was like, I make time for every single thing in my life. I got to find a way to go, right? Bro, and I locked in. I got the gym. Right when I got the gym, start going to church. Boom. And I think that was that moment that I really like accepted Christ as my forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? And I had to realize, like, no, like, I had to put Him first, not second, not first on this day, but first on every day. Fast forward, I got the gym. I'm rolling, right? And the rates of a first-time entrepreneur and open a gym, they real low. All of these things are low. And about a year and a half in, on a 30-month lease, the building is gone. Like we're finna basically go back in and say we can't afford it. And we do it. At the same time, like I said, like, you know, you start to question, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? So me and God had that conversation, like, yeah, you're doing the right thing, but are you willing to do it forever? Right? Like, are you only doing it because it pays you? Are you only doing it because it's at that gym? It's at that location? Or are you doing it to fulfill people and to bring them closer to me forever? And I think that moment, like I said, when I lost my first gym, and then when I lost my grandma, was them 2 moments where I came to Jesus and I was like, whatever you need from me, I'm willing to do. So he was like, all right. So the next gym I actually lived in. Most people don't even know that. Like, even my clients from when I was training them at that moment don't know that I was living in the gym at the same time. But it was like God was testing me. He's like, all right, well, would you live at the same place? And I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to surrender and say, like, all of this is for you, whatever it takes. The gym was in the hood. I mean, like, it was crazy. It was crazy, but it also allowed me to find my community and find the people I could lean on within those moments. Fast forward, I get another gym. I'm living in that gym, but I was already okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Because God had already put that in my life, and he wanted to see if I was going to surrender it all. Like, was I going to surrender my own place of living to go serve his people? And I was like, yeah, I'm willing to do that. Yeah. And that's when I knew, like, all right, you're doing the right thing. Yeah. But even if that day come again, I'm willing to do that again. Yeah. I'm just happy I didn't have kids that had to go and do it, and a family that I had to sacrifice this to. But if it happens, I'm willing to do that. And like I said, I just know that it's for a bigger purpose. Absolutely. So. Yeah.
Last question, man, I got for you. Everything, man, you done spoiled us on this pod, bro. To a kid back in St. Louis, don't really see a way out. Similar, upbringing as you had. What would your encouragement be to them? And how would you kind of uplift them through your words of encouragement of there's always light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, if they in St. Louis, I gotta be real with them, right? I gotta be real with them. Tomorrow's not promised, bro. Yeah. Tomorrow's not promised, but today is the best day. And honestly, once you look at life like that, it's like you get the opportunity today, and you don't know about tomorrow, but you can give everything you have to today. So if that's working on what you're trying to do to leave, if that's, you're gonna go be a YouTuber, I don't know what it is. I talk to my nephews about that right now, and they see me in a sport frame. They think that, if I'm not doing sports, I'm not making Uncle Ryan happy. And I tell them, like, I don't care what you do. I just need you to be the best at what you do. I really don't care. Like, it won't make me no difference. All I know is when you're doing something, be the best at what you're doing. So my dad will always say that. He will always tell us, like, no matter what, you give everything you got to what you're doing. After it's done, it's done. You don't have to regret it. But if you give half, you give a little bit, you're going to regret it. You're going to look back on it and be like, I should have did this. I should have did that. But like I said, I think some people think we got a second chance. But you don't know about tomorrow. Right. So if tomorrow's not promised, you're going to give everything to today. And like I said, it's hard. But anything that's hard is worth having. So like I said, if they're in St. Louis, we also praying for them. You know what I'm saying? I'm back. I'm actually going back for Mother's Day. We're going to have a training session and everything. And in the future, bro, my goal is to have a gym here and in St. Louis, to have some home that somebody's going to open the door for those kids and those adults and the future leaders of the world to help them out. You know what I'm saying? So this is way bigger than me, and this is really just the beginning of it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, guys.
Nah, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for coming on,
appreciate you, man.
And as always, man, just keep shining your light, bro. Like, just through all your words, you touched me. And
Thanks,
I
bro.
kid y'all not, I knew nothing about him, but just sharing your testimony, bro, you touching the lives of others, man, in your gym, in your 7-on-7, man. Continue to be the light that God called you to be.
Thank you, bro. And like I said, this podcast, bro, I love it. I love the platform. Keep inspiring, keep motivating. It's crazy because a lot of people will be like, well, you should be an influencer, you should be this. And I feel like you are in a perfect lane. Me, I don't want to be an influencer. I just don't want to live under those, requirements. I actually just want to serve God and help his people. And like I said, I think that you're doing the same thing and you got the platform to tell the world about it. So it's a great thing.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.